how enormous the challenge is. Thank you.
Thank you, Daria. Stephen, your perspective from an NGO.
Thanks, Richard. I'm really excited to be here. And when I turned up this morning, I saw on my badge, I got my name on it, but I've also got Felicia Kemp. And when I joined the civil service 15 years ago, Felicia looked after. I can see her sitting up in the back corner. She looked after David Warrillow's science team, and it was nice to sort of see her name on my badge. Okay, so I work for WWF, and it's one of the biggest independent conservation organisations in the world. We operate in 100 countries. We have 5 million supporters, and we're best known for our work protecting endangered species. But we also look at other things, including restoring nature, tackle the main causes of the decline of nature, and things such as the food system, which was talked a bit about this morning, and climate change. So, our goals are essentially to try and make the destruction of nature unacceptable. And we try and hold individuals to account, businesses, governments, whole countries. So we are one of around 100 or so observers to the IPCC on the NGO side. And there's 3 broad areas where we engage with the IPCC. So one is engaging on the content itself, so the science. So we have lots of scientists that work for WWF. We are reviewers as well, similar to Damitha, along with Mike Meredith from BAS, one of our scientists from WWF Norway, who's on our polar program, worked on the polar chapter of the SROC. So we work on the science. We also are involved in communicating the science. So saying, what are the messages from IPCC? What are the messages that the IPCC tells us, and trying to help disseminate those messages into the community. And like Emily, I agree that there's huge value to these reports, because they have the strong scientific underpinning, and it's an amazing process to make one of these reports. It's hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of man-hours of work and just the amount of effort that goes into getting these things. And then the culmination is this negotiated summary at the end, and that is important because it has government ownership, and so the governments have agreed to what this document says, and so they're authoritative and they have government ownership, and so working for an NGO, you can use it to hit them harder with and say, you've agreed to this. This is what the science says. You should be therefore stepping up and doing things on it. So an example was the Committee on Climate Change advice. They were waiting for the 1.5 report to come out. They and then, as Damitha just went through, the process of the Climate Change Act, the target being raised, because the science says something new, we can build on it. So really, they are really important. Johnny, would you mind putting up the slide? So we were told, I saw last night I wasn't supposed to have a slide, but I already had one made, so I thought I'd use it. So in WWF, one thing I've been working on the last few months is to pull together these 3 IPCC reports plus the IPBES global assessment. So Joe House talked about the IPBES earlier, so the Intergovernmental Panel on Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services, which is the sort of CBD equivalent of what IPCC is for UNFCCC, and sorry, lots of letters there. And so there's these 4 big reports, so the 3 IPCC ones and the global assessment, and it's trying to sort of pull out what the messages are from that. So this is a sort of work in progress infographic that's going to be in the introduction, and it's going to be launched in a couple of weeks at the COP. But messages that will come out of it are things like that people have been talking about before, like our choices matter. So yes, we do have some lock-in, but our choices matter. Delay in action costs. So you heard from Damitha, 3 months is 1% of the time we have to sort things out. So so a lot of the messages that people have been talking about earlier, we're going to try and sort of pull out. And again, Joe mentioned this morning that the IPCC and IPBES are going to work together have a joint expert meeting and come up with a joint technical paper. So that's really quite exciting. So bringing the climate and the nature sides together. I'll have a quick go at the questions you posed. So happy for you to go back to the other slide, Johnny, if you wish. So how does climate change affect my organisation? So WWF, we work on broadly three types of work. So we do on-the-ground conservation, and so we're trying to protect endangered wildlife. We need to make sure that our projects are climate resilient. So an example, Mike and Jane were talking about in the previous section. So you have a marine protected area. Is it in the right place for 50 years' time? So you're thinking about where you're siting these things. If all the fish are swimming away, is that the right spot for you to be protecting? Advocacy with governments and international organisations. So what I've just been talking about. So advocacy on the Climate Change Act. So we were pushing for the net zero by 2045. We've done some analysis to show that's what it should be. So we were sort of pushing for that sort of idea. Work with the small island developing states. So WWF and other NGOs as a whole sort of support the 1.5, and we're pushing through that in the unit you'll see. And then the third type of work we do is working with corporate partners. And so we want our partners to have, to work in a way that's sustainable and the like. And so, we've got a recent partnership with Tesco. They have a science-based target, which is a 1.5 degree target. They are looking to halve and we're helping them to work to halve the impact of the food basket. So by 2030. So practical things to try and help our partner companies. So another question on how will changing my practices impact climate change. So we have a carbon budget in WWF. We measure, I'm lucky enough to work in a really nice, relatively modern building that's got solar panels and ground source heat pumps, and they measure all this sort of thing. We have a travel policy. It's going to sort of decline, sort of halve over the next to 2030. So broadly in line with the sort of Moore's law, 1.5 consistent. So there's types of things we can do as an organisation, but also sort of reaching out into the public. And so we have a footprint calculator that helps individuals look at what's part of your lifestyle has impact. Is it the stuff you buy? Is it the way you heat your house? Is it the type of travel you do? So lots of, or the types of food you have. And so you can look at you can look at helping supporters to think about the way that they're doing things. Finally, the challenges and opportunities that the organisation faces now. So I think one's around converting the science that is strong into policy. It's around the communicating of it. Sort of, you've got some stark messages in the SROC, the Oceans and Cryosphere report that was just mentioned. How do you get people to act on that without sort of making everyone sort of scared of the long-term future? The opportunities, Corinne mentioned an awakening, and I think that's a really good way of phrasing it. So, over the last year, climate change has risen up the agenda hugely, and so you've got the special reports, you've got Greta and the Fridays for Future, you've got the climate strikes. So climate strikes was the Collins Dictionary Word of the Year this year. David Attenborough series shows on climate change, Extinction Rebellion, having the COP here in Glasgow. So it's all these things are coming together. It's up the agenda. We as an organisation need to sort of work out how can we use that to best effect to push as much action from governments and others.
Thanks, Stephen. And Henry, from an industry perspective.
Thank you. I think I'll give